One decision can start a war. One order can destroy entire cities. And history shows that leaders understand exactly what war costs. Millions of lives lost. Economies shattered. Entire generations erased. And nations keep choosing it. Again and again. The question is not how wars begin. The real question is why humans keep starting them. Because wars do not begin on battlefields. They begin inside the human mind. War is one of the most destructive decisions a nation can make. When every leader knows this. Every government studies history. They know what happened to empires that overreached. They know the cost of invasion, retaliation, and escalation. And yet history shows something surprising. Almost no nation begins a war expecting defeat. Instead, leaders begin wars believing something far more dangerous. They believe they will win. They believe the conflict will be short, controlled, limited. But wars rarely stay limited. And that raises the first psychological trap: overconfidence. Throughout history, leaders repeatedly believed they could control war. But war is one of the few forces in history that almost nobody truly controls. When leaders consider war, they rarely imagine chaos. They imagine strategy. They imagine plans. Military operations designed to achieve clear goals. But war has a way of breaking every plan. Unexpected alliances form. Battles take different turns. Public opinion shifts, and suddenly, the war leaders thought they could manage begins to grow beyond their control. Yet despite centuries of examples, leaders continue to believe that this time will be different. Psychologists call this the illusion of control. The belief that complex events can be managed more easily than they actually can. And in war, that belief can be catastrophic. Because once a nation convinces itself it can control war, the next step becomes much easier: the decision to start it. But overconfidence alone does not start wars. Another powerful force pushes nations toward conflict: fear. Not fear of destruction, but fear of weakness. In international politics, reputation matters. Nations constantly observe one another, watching, testing, looking for hesitation. If a country appears unwilling to defend its interests, rivals may see that as an opportunity. Alliances may weaken. Enemies may grow bolder. Leaders know this. And that fear creates pressure. Because sometimes, the decision to go to war is not driven by aggression. It is driven by the fear that backing down will make a nation appear weak. And once leaders believe their reputation is at stake, something dangerous happens. Backing down becomes harder than fighting. Power also changes the way leaders think. The higher someone rises in authority, the more isolated their decisions become. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and rulers operate inside circles that few others can enter. Information becomes filtered. Advisors become cautious. Criticism becomes rare. Over time, leaders may begin to hear fewer opposing voices. Psychologists call this the echo chamber effect. When decision makers are surrounded by people who share similar views, their confidence grows stronger, even when their assumptions are wrong. This can make risky decisions appear safer than they really are. And few decisions are riskier than war. But leaders do not make these decisions alone. Because before nations fight wars, their people must believe those wars are necessary. Human beings naturally divide the world into groups: us and them. This instinct is ancient. It helped early humans survive in tribes competing for resources. But in modern nations, the same instinct can fuel conflict. When tensions rise between countries, political leaders and media often frame the situation in simple terms: our nation, our people, our survival, against them, their aggression, their threat. And once populations begin to see the world this way, compromise becomes harder, because conflict begins to feel like defense. And when millions of people believe their identity is under threat, war can begin to feel justified. Most wars do not begin with a single dramatic decision. Instead, they grow through smaller steps: diplomatic disputes, military buildups, economic sanctions, border incidents. Each step increases tension. Each response pushes the situation further, and slowly, both sides begin investing more resources into the conflict. More troops, more weapons, more political promises. Psychologists call this escalation of commitment. The more a nation invests in confrontation, the harder it becomes to step back. Because retreat can feel like admitting failure. And leaders rarely want to admit failure. By this stage, something strange happens. War may not be anyone's first choice anymore, but it begins to feel unavoidable. So why do nations go to war even when they know the cost? Because leaders believe the alternative is worse. They fear losing power. They fear losing credibility. They fear losing control of events. And in that moment, war begins to appear like the lesser risk, even when history has shown how devastating the consequences can be. The most dangerous moment in international politics is not when nations understand the cost of war. It is when leaders believe that cost will not apply to them, that their strategy will succeed, that their conflict will stay limited, that their war will be different. But history tells a different story. Again, and again, and again. Nations understand the price of war. They simply believe they will not be the ones who have to pay it.